Hello, my friends, and welcome to a top-level match of Beyond All Reason. Today, going to be playing on Failed Negotiations. This is a map that has taken the ladder by storm, and I'm super happy to hear it. I knew this map was going to be a banger as soon as I saw it for the very first time. I believe over on the live stream, which you can check out on Tuesdays and Saturdays, by the way, in case you're interested in that sort of thing. You can check it out right here on the YouTubes. I also stream over on Twitch. The links for that will be down below in the comment section, as well as the Discord channel where you can submit replays or just hang out with other gamers that have similar interest to you, perhaps. Very fun stuff going on over there. Failed Negotiations. What a lovely map. Our blue team leader today, spawning on the southwestern island here, getting into the water already. It's going to be the blue Cortex commander that goes by the name of Austin. Austin C tier. Going to be a blue Cortex commander. Getting their feet wet already with a naval lab. I think it's probably a pretty strong start here. Getting into the water quickly does mean you get quite a few of these naval mexes. Very, very well to do. All the way on the other side of the map, right up, lined up against the blue team leader, it's going to be Zekrus or Zekris. I'm not sure how to pronounce it exactly, but our red team leader here, also Cortex, going to be getting into the water as well. That should be a really fun battle. We're going to have blue versus red out on the high seas, and you know I love a good naval battle, but it just makes it all the much better when we have 50 versus 51 true scale players, some titans clashing heads out in the middle of the high seas. Lots of reclaim here on Failed Negotiations right in the middle of the map, which does mean indeed that I'm going to have to offer Zeitka my highest commendations rather, for managing to get this Resbot out on the field and eating up that juicy reclaim. You can see while this thing's eating up, it's getting, maybe 12 or so metal per second here, pulling that back and sending it into the powder blue economy here. 25 true skill Canadian powder blue economy, pumping out as many of those bots and Resbots and other good old constructor boys as possible, trying to make sure that that metal goes to good use. There's actually a lot of metal all over the place. You can see these ferns and rocks on both shorelines. Reclamation aplenty. Going to be important that you get that reclamation underhand, otherwise, well, your enemy's going to have it, and that's no good. Enemy having more metal than you just can't have it. Now, one of the fun things about Failed Negotiations is that oftentimes the center island becomes this big everyone trying to defend it as hard as possible. Nobody wants to give it up, and typically the players that do manage to hold on to these very juicy 4.8 metal per second metal extractors, whoa, that's not cool. A little bit of chuggies right there. Do believe that was the result of finishing up a little bit of an update here. Hopefully that doesn't happen all too much more. I guess if it does, this wouldn't be on the YouTube, so we will see, right? Either way, eating up all this metal is a tremendous advantage. You can see that advantage already here. We already have so many units out. Well, that was killer D-gun though. So many units out here that 8C is so beautifully D-gunning into smithereens right now. Entire army wasted here by the yellow commander, but for what it's worth, yellow commander now down to 58% HP. The 58 was confusing me with the 8C. 8C must be the natural predator of 8D, who's another prominent player that we've seen here and there. Clearly the most similarly related life form in that genus, right? 8D is kind of like the I guess it must be the terrestrial equivalent to the land and water-based 8C. Yeah. I'm just drawing the obvious connection here that I'm sure we all spotted already. Resbot overextended just a little bit here. It is going to dip on back. Already, though, having eaten up almost all of the reclaim over here is well-to-do for Zeitka, who's going to be benefiting from a tremendous boost in economy here right off the bat. Going to be able to go up to a whole bunch of those wind turbines, but also going to be able to go into more and more army as the time comes up. Getting a bunch of metal extractors up and running as well, and Zeitka is going to be set up for a excellent little hold here in the meantime. Some blitzes pushing across right now into the forces of Evolved Monkey, or the forces of Nier. Our lowest true skill player coming in at 22 true skill, which is pretty impressive for the lowest true skill, right? Gonna be coming in here and trying to contest this area. I was talking about how this area oftentimes become a choke point, and the reason for that, of course, is that you can't really build static defense on the water out here. There's not really enough land for you to build that static defense, so oftentimes we see this as the center of static defense, this island right here, and whoever manages to hold that can keep a lane open where you can funnel troops through and get a decent enough trade. A couple of pawns right now trying to get aggressive over here. They managed to sneak away from that bout of tanks over here by JT Lane. And they're going after that Resbot. Yep, they want that juicy connection. Already some hovercraft shenanigans over here. Looks like our orange player Unicorn Cats has decided to go into a couple of those goons. The light Cortex hover harassment tool. Very, very potent for doing exactly this. You can see those peeling apart all of these various economy structures for the very low price of 75 metal. Shutting down the economy here of Gove quite tremendously alongside a whole bunch of gunboats that were blasting away at the Naval lab. Very nicely done here. Dual-pronged aggression, going to be making up for making sure that the resources are spent, right? Using the resources, trading them out effectively. As the cruise is pretty far pushed forward here, I like that we have the submarine that's going to lend a whole lot of stability to this position here. If the commander is very far forward like this and a single submarine can find it, they really can take a beating from that submarine underwater. They can do quite a lot of damage, those submarines. However, including just a single submarine, it is expensive, but it is going to secure this position quite a bit better here. Not to mention the constructor is here as well, which can help with building any of those naval fortifications, right? You can build any of those torpedo launchers and such like that. Going to be well worth having. Vehicles versus bots out here, and indeed 8C is actually going for a forward bot lab, of all things. Interesting decision there. Do we have... Okay, so we are eating up the bot lab in the back. I was going to say, it's a little bit of an odd decision to just go for two bot labs, one in the front, one in the back, but no, it looks like we're going to be reinforcing the front from the front here. Evolved Monkey appears to have taken over one of the players over here and is now going to be stepping forward with 2 commanders worth of economy. Uh-oh. This is a huge problem. So this is one of the things that happens in Beyond All Reason, and it's unfortunate, but it is something to be aware of, right? When you're playing the game and also as a spectator. And it's the fact that oftentimes when a player leaves, one of the higher tier players will pick this up now. Evolved Monkey coming in at 34 true skill, so not even anywhere near the top of the leaderboards here for the red team, but I assure you, a very, very experienced commander. And yeah, when you see a commander this experienced wielding 2 armies, you have to treat that with a certain level of respect. And so what I think I'd like to see right now is essentially the backline getting way more aggressive about pumping units out to the front here. Essentially, JT Lane and Zydka both contributing significantly to pushing this front end, because right now, essentially what we have is a 3v2. And, well, I don't need to explain the math to you about how 3v2s typically end up going for the less fortunate, less blessed commander, shall we say. The commander's blessed with less presence on the map. Grunt v Grunt here. Not a bad trade. I like the concave here. Shifting, flowing, and oh, that was a nice little connection right there as well. Those shell shockers getting a huge connect. Aggravators trying to fire away out into the water. It's tricky, but those pounders can't really fire. So at least for the time being, with them stuck in the water, this is a great time to go harass. Yeah, they can fire from there, though. And indeed they will. Grunt's still spread out, though, so that's a decent engagement as well. Wolverine now being pumped out by Delphi. Not to be confused with Dolphy, although maybe it's an alt account or something. This is one of those pro-level games, so I wouldn't be surprised if maybe Dolphy was lurking around. Haven't seen much of Dolphy recently, but I wonder if that's just because I haven't really been playing all too much either, so... Could just be, you know, ships passing in the dark sort of a thing. Speaking of ships passing in the dark, whole bunch of frigates mixed in with destroyers over here. Perfect for hunting this commander down. Gonna be launching those depth charges. They don't do as much damage as the submarines, but certainly can chase a commander really effectively here. Yeah, you can see as the crew's getting pretty low suddenly. Yeah. Eating up the wreckage right there is quite nice, but this destroyer is pretty beefy. It can stand to hang out over here. With the cover of these frigates as well. That destroyer rather is going to be more than happy to fight that commander. Zacruz is in a very fragile position right now. His opponent has way more forces. Austin, that is, has way more forces out on the field right now. These missile ships are great for harassing, but every second that they're not harassing, they're essentially wasted metal. So you have to keep these constantly firing on the frigates, and it's a lot of micro. It's a lot of APM to constantly be spending all over the place here. Looks like with the inclusion of the Wolverines, this aggravator force will be able to push the forces of Preteric back. Preteric now has his own forward vehicle bay. No bot lab in the back here, so it's just pure vehicle, which means that res bots are going to be the big advantage that Delphi does have on the front here. Of course, any of these Rocketeers, or aggravators, pardon me, that do go down can of course be resurrected should their wreckages remain on the field. Sometimes they just turn to scrap though, and there's not really much you can do about that. These Wolverines though, contributing a significant amount of firepower down upon the tan forces across the beachhead there. A little bit of a yellow incursion over here. Yeah, we got some pawns jumping on a couple of missile trucks. There was a Juno there. A Janus, rather. Always get those two mixed up. Not mixed up, rather, but just the names sound similar. Missile trucks being jumped upon by a whole bunch of pawns. I think it's a great engagement for those pawns right there. The Janus is eventually going to be able to clean a lot of this up, but already the damage has been done. And 8C doing a great job of reclaiming all this. Already a couple of res bots are coming out as well to eat up some of this metal. You just saw briefly there, 1.3 thousand metal left over in this reclaim field. Going to be well worth trying to get your grubby yellow mitts on here, I do believe, if you're playing as the yellow commander. Already, though, a lot of missile trucks have been pulled over to this side in order to deal with this incursion of forces. Good read by 8C to move the commander back in time there just to make sure that it doesn't get sniped by a whole bunch of missile trucks with a lucky shot or two. Gauntlet has been set up over here, and I have a feeling it's not going to be the first static defense we see. Indeed, Evolved Monkey already getting a T2 constructor to head on up in this direction. Delphi now stepping very far forward with the commander, crossing to the enemy's beachhead, trying desperately to, well, I believe D-gun down this facility. It will be D-gun, and that is going to be Preteric out a vehicle lab with no unit production whatsoever right now. Hopefully, Evolved Monkey does recognize this and send some forces. Looks like there were some pawns that were spared over here to try and reinforce, and a couple of tanks were peeled away as well, so well aware of the situation over on that side of the map, and it just goes to show how important having that map awareness really is. 2 destroyers now going to make very quick work of this commander. Indeed, Zakrus's commander will go down, scratches up a whole lot of those ships, but doesn't kill the destroyers, and that's really the defining feat here. Austin going to be more than capable of reclaiming. Don't mind the repair here, but I think that should be tasked with the res sub, or, well, I mean, either way, we should have one thing go and eat the commander and another one sitting around repairing all of these units. It is nice that we're repairing these battleships, though. Keeping those in ship shape is going to mean, well, at the very least, that you have a fighting force that's much more capable than your opponents. A couple of hovercraft have actually broken through from Unicorn Cats over on the right-hand side. Must have snuck these around somehow. But keeping these in the backline is actually going to do a lot of damage. Doesn't seem like it, right? Just 2 anti-air hovercraft, but every fighter that they kill is just going to peel down the air forces here. Yeah, they could just park over here in the water and no one would be the wiser. Oftentimes that's really difficult to catch, and yeah, I think that's exactly what these bird eaters are going to do. That's really nicely done. That's actually really nicely done. Shuriken were used to paralyze some of the gunboats over here, meaning that the green player did get a really fantastic trade against the pink player, taking out a whole bunch of these ships over here. I must have missed a big fight because there's a whole lot of oppressors laying in wreckage at the bottom of the ocean floor. We have res subs actually going to resurrect a whole lot of this. I don't mind it. Yeah, you put all that back together and you're going to have enough to knock your opponent out of the ocean. You can always reclaim it too, but it's a slightly slower path. Advanced geothermal does come up here for Unicorn Cats. Wow, this is really impressive. So a lot of these commanders have decided to forego their laboratories in the back in favor of going for forward laboratories. We see almost no unit production from a lot of these T2 players that have eaten up their lab and have managed to sustain themselves off of just their units that they had produced at one point and no longer do have any. This is the point where I think Zydeco would be well to do, moving these units across here and trying to do some damage. Unicorn Cats has no units on the field right now and could easily be pushed in by a whole bunch of assault forces. So really this falls on a failure of scouting to recognize that and realize that this entire beachhead is pretty vulnerable. Rec 313 is also in a pretty, well, vulnerable spot here. Up on the hill is nice, but yeah, a couple of Centurions surrounding that, and indeed we do have them, could blast that commander down fairly quickly here. I like that we're setting up little barricades over here. At the very least, going to stop any cheap run by going through T1, well, some of that early T2, maybe sprinters and fiends, that sort of thing. A couple of aggravators and rovers, rascals rather, making their way across over here. Oh, well, okay, commander goes down. A bunch of medium tanks for the follow-up here, and that's actually really nice. Took out those shuriken as well, which is really cool. With the shuriken down, there's not really a whole lot to very efficiently shut down all these tanks. Yeah, that T2 lab is never going to come up on online. Down goes the build power next, I do believe. That is going to be a whole lot of medium tanks, causing tons of pain in the backline here of Preteric. Nicely done. Delphi moving the tanks in just at the right spot, just at the right time, finding an opening and using it to pop the economy here of the Tan player. Those windmills were just spaced out enough to make sure that they didn't chain react, so that's nice. At the very least, minimizing this damage that otherwise could have been quite nasty. Yeah, Austin's Navy has completely vanished here. I mean, I guess it's not a mystery where it went. You can see it all lying at the ocean floor. This is the time to start investing in some energy here. Maybe go up to T2. Maybe think about getting some more tidal generators. Looks like tidal generators are going to be the way to go. One of the things that I always love to do is just send a constructor to build 100 million tidal generators in the backline here. It's a very inexpensive way to step your economy up slowly, but very, very surely. And oftentimes that can lead to a couple thousand energy production that you really didn't feel like you had to pay for in the late game. Turn it into metal or just use it to fund your T2 production, especially on 20 energy per second. It's been a while since I've done the math, but I believe 20 energy per second is as efficient as a fusion reactor. Speaking of which, pyrotech, going into and finishing up a fusion reactor right now. I think 21 is just above fusion reactor. It's either 21 or 20 that's at fusion reactor, and then the other one is 21 is either higher or it's 22 that's just higher. But either way, yeah, you're looking at a really efficient title setup here right now. Oh, this is a huge play. This is something that I talk about a lot, but I feel like never we see. Eating up your T1 static defense here. So this gauntlet, I mean, how much defense is it really contributing on this front line, right? Like, it can fire away every once in a while. It's served its purpose. It's done a great job of driving back the T1. Now you eat it up for that 1,250 metal. I mean, that's a commander's worth of metal right now. You eat it up and you use it and you go into T2 with it. We already have the T2 constructor, so we might as well pop down a rattlesnake or something. I wouldn't be surprised if that's exactly what we see here from 8C. He has the T2 constructor. I'm just waiting to see it. There it is. Rattlesnake comes up and online, even a pulsar as well. And we do see that fortification beginning here. So at this point, T1 is getting a little bit more aggressive over here, but already the T2 lab has come up and running here for Unicorn Cats. The time upon which this was a vulnerable, a vulnerable surface has long since passed. The orange player now has a couple of Sumos out, and those Sumos will shred this army. Sumo is essentially perfect for dealing with these pawns. We're also moving this entire contingent as a fleet here. For those that didn't know, if you hold control, whoops. Oh, I can. Was that me or was that the replay? Oh, weird. Anyway, if you hold control, it'll pull up a little reticle, and you can actually move your units around in formation, which is pretty funny. Now, luckily, welders are here, as well as sharpshooters. Those are going to be a whole lot better at dealing with these Sumos than all this T1 stuff. But yeah, those Centurions and Pawns, I mean, their effective time is over. They were effective 5 minutes ago. At this point, they're going to be trading much less efficiently. Rick 313's commander, however, not hoping to get out of this, indeed decides to jump on top of all this, self-destructs the commander. For what it's worth, takes out the majority of all of those T1 forces. Now, you still have a lot of sharpshooter to deal with over here. Shuriken up in the air as well. Would love to see a single anti-air bot included in the mixture here, just to make sure that we have some sort of way of dealing with this. Fighters are going to be pulled. That's another option. They will shoot down those shuriken, well, the majority of them anyways, before intersecting with those hot pink fighters flying into the danger zone. Gauging aerial battles is always so difficult. The actual fight itself is always very difficult to tell who's actually winning. Yeah, this Green Navy, you can see a lot of these ships are resurrected here, and now there's just too much to defend. And that is going to be Rick 313 knocked out of the ocean in one fell swoop here. I wouldn't be surprised if this Green Navy goes all the way across and completely wins this battle. Welders now continuing to march in on this side too. We have a bunch of those Arbiters firing away, but it's just not as effective as those Sharpshooters are at dealing with these units. They're much more of a siege unit than the Sharpshooters are. Yeah, those Welders are now well into the base. This is trouble. Huge buildup of shurikens though. Going to be useful in paralyzing all this. As soon as these sharpshooters get up on the hill, though, things are about to get real nasty. Sharpshooters are cloaked, so having a little bit of trouble with those shuriken. There we go. Loosing their volume. But the shuriken are going to catch a lot of these sharpshooters. That's quite nice. Yeah, okay. Sharpshooter dealt with by the shuriken, luckily. If those had been able to fire a volley on this T2 lab, I think they would have been way more efficient here. But luckily, that was not the case for the orange player. There is some missile frigates included in this, so shuriken will be shot down here eventually. There's a lot of shuriken, though. Yeah, maybe not. I mean, I guess if you have enough shuriken, you can even fight through the anti-air here. But yeah, that is a brutal solution to this naval play. You basically just need to go into crazy anti-air in order to counteract that. The Blue Navy is looking quite strong as well over here. We have quite a lot of reinforcements coming up and online from the seafloor. An army of the dead. Big old frigate battle over here. There is a destroyer in the mix that can fire away from long range. That's quite nice. There's also quite a lot of Platypus built up. Oh, they just got their movement queue. Evolved Monkey decides to send those all the way across the map here, deciding to try and punch Austin right in the wallet and avoid as many of those reinforcements as possible. Nicely done by the red forces, pushing in here right when those platypus start moving. Try and do as much damage as possible with the teaming. We need a res sub desperately to eat up whatever metal falls to the floor, though. Yep, torpedo launcher's pretty good. Oh, the forces are thick here for the blue player, though. I wonder if there's just not enough for the maroon player to get all this done. Commander goes down here, at the very least. It's a pretty good pick. Hey, you know what? Those platypuses won the fight. I didn't expect it, but they sure did. The platypus has been tuned. I feel like they weren't this powerful recently. These are incredibly effective. These platypus have now swarmed through this defensive base here. I mean, I suppose the torpedoes didn't really have much of an effect on these hovercraft bots. They're an odd little class of bot here. By the way, these anti-air hovercraft, where is it? There we are. Still working their magic in the backline here. Shredding apart planes wherever they can. Yeah. And now we just have 400 platypus making their way across. I mean, that's great. The platypus are, they're kind of a finicky unit. I feel like I find myself always wanting more from the platypus because its counter is the duck. And the duck just always seems so much more capable. But I will say the platypus is looking very strong out of the water, above land, so to speak. You know, looks like they're just now realizing there's also a, well, something or another over here in the water. Asking if it's a commander, but nope. Just a lone bird eater from the T1 era. And indeed, these platypus make it all the way, and that's going to be the blue base completely wiped out of this match. Yikes. Talk about a strategic strike right when it was needed most here. Evolved Monkey making the play that counts and manages to essentially win the naval battle right here. That was a very solid hit to the blue player. It's going to be difficult to recover right here because all of the production is going to have to come up and online here at the front, which is, well, of course, very close to the enemy. Those Mauser are now up and available. A couple of Ambassadors as well. Going to be firing away at that Rattlesnake. Ambassadors do outrange the Rattlesnake, I believe. Oh, I might be wrong about that, actually. Ambassador, let's see, range of 1300 versus the Rattlesnake's range of 1380. Very close. They will indeed be able to pop down the Rattlesnake, but it is a close contest right there. These need to be retargeted to fire at the Pulsar here, but also fire at the T1 lab that 8C has set up. Great use of those, though. Oftentimes we see the Ambassador neglected. Oftentimes I neglect the Ambassador. The green player has continued to ravage this backline, by the way. Trying desperately to get some sort of a play done. Going to be difficult to do, but Pyrotech making a great defense over here. And we got a lot of destroyers and whatnot. Basically a whole load of ships, and there's just no way to get an effective use out of them. Going into T2 amphibious spots is probably the right decision. Over on the left-hand side, we do see a whole lot of Sumos included in the mixture with a whole lot of Sheldon. This is a really tough composition to beat. It's not the fastest composition. It's not the most damage composition, the highest damage per second composition, but it is a very tough composition to break through. Just because those Sumos can put out such a high level of damage consistently, and then the Sheldon, of course, are able to rain down on whatever one target that they should decide to focus on. It can make this a very difficult army to push through. Won't matter, though, as Evolved Monkey has gone all the way up to T3, and I think is exactly what I was talking about earlier. With the full economic force of 2 players behind his back, going up to T3 very quickly here relative to everybody else. Gonna have a couple of Razorback tearing their way through all of the forces over here for near. Didn't mean to make that rhyme, but there you go. Stumbled upon a word sandwich today rather than forging one out of the word steel that I usually work with. One of those Razorbacks getting very low, but not dead yet. It's that last HP that matters. Everything up to there is just a luxury. Oh, there we go. Finally goes down here. There's still another Razorback right behind it. Gonna be blasting apart these units here. Yeah, I think we just need to set this on the path and leave it. Just let it move. It's getting a little bogged down in the directions right now. Not exactly sure where it should go. Yeah, unfortunate. There will be more headed out to the front lines right now. Razorbacks being streamed out at a pace. However, seeing those go down is a little bit of a shame. Getting some resbots on those immediately would be ideal. Resurrect those T3 to at the very least try and help your forces hold the oncoming T3. like this one here that we see tearing apart the T2 lines right now. The Bull standing up to the T3 as best it can, but it's just not a perfect solution here. And indeed, the Razorback. Oh, well, there's the sharpshooters. Those are a much better answer. But indeed, those Razorbacks will get a nice little hit on the T2 front line that was up here. Finally, some T3 is pumped out for the blue team, though, in response. Evolved Monkeys Commanders, plural, have now moved in. Oh, big Marauder run by over here. Almost missed it. Pyrotech in a whole lot of trouble. Well, I guess it's Unicorn Cat's in a whole lot of trouble. Pyrotech trying to defend the teammate here. Marauder do manage to squeak through. Oh, yeah, do some splits here. Peel one of these away. There we go. Yeah, one of these will be split off here by Orlani Zykus. And indeed, that advanced geothermal will pop. The Marauder have gotten all the way into the base. That is going to be a huge, huge hit to the orange player. A couple of pit bulls were thrown up here as deep base defense, and that will be enough to stop the remainder Marauder, but there's still a couple more harassing the orange base as we speak. Feels weird, but targeting the advanced metal extractors makes a whole lot of sense right now. Feels like a low priority target, but it really is worth it. And these Marauder are not dead yet. We do see a spy bot over here, cheeky spy bot. Saw that on the map really quick right there and wondered what was up with that. Marauder now completely into the back line. Oh, yeah, those shuriken, rather, going to jump on top of them. Is there enough in the tank to shut down the shuriken? I'm not sure. It can. Oh, one more shot. There we go. Chain reacts to build power before finally being paralyzed. And I think that will be all she wrote for the purple Marauder over here on the northeastern side of the map. At this point, the blue player has completely won the naval engagement up on the northwestern side of the map. Going to actually be going for a resurrect here on the fusion reactor. That's one way to get back into the game. Steal your opponent's fusions. Blue player making the worst of a very bad situation. Lost all of the eco back here. That's a lot of T2 that just completely went down. But still doing a great job of trying to claw their way back into this match. Oh, and indeed, it looks like that will be where the red team decides to call it. I don't know. I think they probably had a little bit more fight left in them, but it was only a matter of time before T2 swarmed across with those rocket ships here and started firing into the back lines. I think the red team sniffed out that there was probably not a whole lot they could do. Goaf getting the Doing Everything Golden Cow Award. Going to be celebrating a victory here alongside the rest of the blue team. What a lovely match. You know, it's one thing, the pros know how to get aggressive right away, but they also know when they're on a losing foot. So sometimes we see these GGs that feel a little bit early, but in all respects, with both Cs essentially lost, I think it probably was just about over for the red team. Thanks a ton for watching. If you do enjoy these casts daily Beyond Our Reason videos, you can always consider hitting that subscribe button, liking the video. All that good stuff helps the algorithm know that people are interested and helps grow the Beyond Our Reason community. Other than that, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the very next Beyond Our Reason video. Peace out, folks.